Welcome to Capitol Dateline Online. Today, I'm with Executive Editor of the News Service of Florida, Jim Saunders. Hi, Jim.
Hey.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too.
So, Capitol Dateline Online is ready for 2016. Is the Florida legislature ready for 2016?
Well, whether they're ready or not, they're coming back. So they start on January 12th, next Tuesday, and so it's coming earlier this year because they've moved up the start date of the session. It's like they've never gone away since they were here for four sessions during 2015. But they got some big issues awaiting, and I think they want to try to resolve things as fast as they can and get out of town because it's also an election year. So,
well, speaking of an election year, does an election year make a difference to a session?
I think it does, and I think last year's session, 2015, both the regular session as well as special sessions were pretty tense. They went on pretty much throughout the year, and things were pretty bad between the House and the Senate. I don't think in an election year they want to come in here and go through some of the turmoil that they went through in 2015. And I also don't think they want to be here during the summertime or late spring dealing with some of these issues that they could resolve within the first 2 months or 2.5 months of the year.
And they don't want to be here because they want to be...
They want to be out campaigning, and they want to be ready to run for re-election, run for other offices. And so it's... I tend to think that this year is going to go smoother than it has last year. We've already got a couple good examples, I think, of sort of indications of that coming together. During the first couple weeks or week or two of the session, the legislature is probably going to pass out a big water policy bill. And that has been a major priority of this House Speaker, Steve Crisafulli. Also during the first week or two, they're going to pass out a package of bills or proposals dealing with people with developmental disabilities. This is a huge personal issue for Senate President Andy Gardner. Mm-hmm. He has a son who has Down syndrome, and he's really made it a personal issue to try to provide more job opportunities, economic opportunities, educational opportunities, those sorts of things for people with disabilities. So if you get those two things out the door pretty fast and the governor signs them, that kind of will set a tone a little bit, I think, for the legislature, that they will, sort of smooth over some of the problems from last year.
So that'll give them some momentum, say.
I think so. I mean, it's a 60-day session, and there's a lot of big issues. I mean, they're going to have to resolve a budget and other issues, but if you get off on the right foot, it may help a little bit. So
now I know that one thing that the governor's going to be interested in are economic incentives, and there seems to be some question whether or not those actually work. Do you think that's going to be taken up, and what do you think that what might happen there?
I think one of the big wild cards in this year's session is the governor has two major priorities. One of which is he wants basically $1 billion tax cut package, and he also has proposed economic incentives. A large part of that economic incentive package is creating a $250 million fund that would be able to be used to try to attract businesses from other states or elsewhere to Florida. The Senate has been very, very hesitant over the past year, maybe even longer, about spending large amounts of money on economic incentives, and they've also questioned the effectiveness of some of these programs. So, they really butted heads with the governor during the 2015 session about that issue, and the governor's tried to ratchet up the pressure ever since then to try to show that this is a priority. He's gone out and sought support from business leaders, local community leaders, legislators themselves, and tried to build pressure. Some of the senators have not really liked that pressure too much. They don't want to hear from the business leaders back home the governor's message when they don't necessarily agree with the governor's message. So that's kind of a wild card issue to me in terms of how this session is going to play out, what the governor gets on that and what he gets on tax cuts. I'm not sure anybody really thinks that he's going to get $1 billion worth of tax cuts. Andy Gardner, the Senate president, has made a statement that maybe $250 million is a starting point for the talks. I tend to think, as most things happen in the legislature, they cut the deal somewhere in between. But you know, the governor's pushing hard on those issues. And the day after the legislative session starts, he's going to take a tour of the state when he's going to be pushing those issues.
Well, if you'd like to know more about Florida news and government, visit the Advances section of our website.